Hello, everybody. Hey, Larry, you're here. um, it's great to see Larry. I know he's had some schedule challenges, and glad to see him. Right, so hello, fellow slots enthusiasts. It's great to hang out with you for another Professor Slots podcast episode and live stream. If you've ever walked into a casino, looked around, and wondered what's going on, I can help. Master Casino Slots, win your way to success. This is my live stream Q&A session every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time here on my Professor Slots John Friedel YouTube channel. If you are here live, it's great to hang out with you and talk about slots. I'll do my best to answer your slots-related questions during this weekly Q&A session. For these live streams, I'll review an interesting news item, perhaps from one of my state-by-state Facebook slots communities, go over any relevant slots issues raised during my conversations with other slots enthusiasts, which I think you should know about, or I'll expand on my slots-related videos or articles of the last week. Before we get into today's topic, let's welcome everybody on the live chat. If you're with us during the live stream, make sure you say hello, and I can see many people have. They get here a few minutes early. If you're here with the live stream, make sure you say hello in the live chat and let us know what state you play slots in. And I also want to quickly say that if you today we're going to talk about the ongoing reopening of casinos. If you have a report about how tight or loose things were, if you happen to be near one, be prepared to maybe make a comment about that, because we'll go over a bunch of that before I cover a more regular topic. But I want to make sure that I say hello to everyone, and one of the things I'm going to talk about. Well, if you would, please like this video, please subscribe to this channel. It helps pull in more people, and a larger community gets pretty lively, and that's great. I've been looking around a little bit in some of the other channels that I follow, and I think we've got just as many people on the live chat as some videos, some live streams have 2,000 views, and we only get like 500. It's building. This other one has been around for a long time. Not on slots. It's just something else I learned from, and learned how to do this actually. But I think we have as many or more comments as that 2,000 view live session that they have occasionally. It's a YouTube video creators channel. I learn about doing stuff like this, and they would say right now, move on. So let's see who's with us today. Wow, look at all those comments. That's wonderful. So Chip says, Chip works hard to be here. Larry does too. I know others have as well, but Chip had to hurry and get his ceiling painted, so I'll skip over that. Chip also wants me to have a picture of my cat. He's been sending me videos. Please don't send me videos of cats screaming. We had that happen once here when I tried to pick mine up, and she's practicing social distancing, and I didn't catch that in time, so there's a nice snarl at one point on one of my prior live streams. And she's napping now. So, and so Chip wants me to put a bow tie on her, because that's my professor outfit that I use sometimes. And Chip, it's not going to like that. Let's see, Chip. Chip says, let's guess the name of John's cat. First of all, I will say that I have 3 cats. And the last one I picked up with the house, and the 2 before that I named after scientists. A real scientist and a fictional scientist. So that's your clue. You're not going to win anything, but if you want to try, Chip. Anyway, we have Joseph calling, signing in from California. Lois and Dave, family and friends from Ontario, are here. Sometimes parts of the year. Part of the year and part of the year in Florida. Paula is here. Paula knows my cats' names. Paula has met my cats. Her daughter Joanna even taught one of them to meow. Chip's still trying to guess. I'll leave it at that. And so Chip is on topic. He's saying he's thinking casinos in Ohio will open up when they develop a vaccine. Sheesh, he says, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Morning, Joe. Scott is saying hello from Ozark, Missouri, and having a good day so far. Well, if you missed it, Chip was telling us about his ceiling is drying. The paint is drying on his ceiling now. Keeping his plants covered. We're still talking about garden stuff, like from last time. So Denise is here. Excellent. Denise is in Texas, but plays in Oklahoma. And weather conversations. Chuck is saying hello from Baldwin, Missouri. And weather. Larry, it's good to have you here. We chat a little bit offline. Sometimes it takes, because of all the people working at home, it's an ongoing theme, right? Other countries are having a little problem with their bandwidth. And so YouTube has sort of slowed down rolling out hour-long live Q&As. You have to process those to distribute them around the world. So it tends to get processed for the United States. But then going around the world, it used to take an hour. And now it's like 8 or 10. So it's hard for Larry in the UK to actually get the live video when he misses the live, get the recording when he misses the live. So it's been a struggle. Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate telling me the audio is good. It's important if you hear me. The first 20 times or so, I occasionally had problems with audio. Vivian, hello Vivian. I don't remember meeting you. Thoughts on if slots will be looser or tighter when casinos first open? I have some thoughts on that. I've shared them in past videos, but we also have reports. So we'll get into that. We'll get into that. What others have been saying who've actually gone to the casinos. I have theories, and I think they're justified. But then we have some actual data, reports, and we'll talk about those. Larry's talking about since he's in the UK, he loves to visit Las Vegas, and next spring it would be the soonest, a year from now, and he's a big fan of Las Vegas. Hi, Steve. Good afternoon to you as well. Thanks, Larry. I'll catch you later. Philly says, hi, John. Hello. Steve is also saying hello. Hey, Dean, good to see you. Dean is in Las Vegas, and he's our boots on the ground there. Right. People are still commenting about my cats. TX Tootsie, Jan. Jan is from Texas. She gambles in Louisiana, or at least she has, and wants to again soon. Richard is in Western North Carolina. He says Harrah's opens May 18th, but by invitation only. He has shared that on the North Carolina slots community. So if you want details on that, please join, and we'll get into some of the value that we're seeing. I don't know that there's a more valuable time to join one of our state-by-state slots communities than now, because, well, we'll talk about that. I want to finish saying hello. Let's see. Jan, that was my older cat, not the current cat, Einstein. Let's see. Ray, Hello, Ray from Ohio. Greener Pastures, Michigan is on such lockdown. We may never open up. Well, I'll talk a little bit about Michigan. We'll discuss it a little bit. We'll discuss it a little bit. I have family in Michigan, and they're anxious too. And then there's Doug, who also says hello from Missouri. Got a lot of people from Missouri here. That's great. Okay, so right. So let's get into this. Make sure everything is looking good as far as stream health. Okay. Right. So again, thanks for joining us today. Whether you are listening on the podcast, watching this video later, or here with us on the live stream, I'm glad you're all here. Our topic today is reports from our state-by-state slots communities on Facebook, followed later in the show by state gaming regulations. What I'm trying to do with this show is to provide an avenue for live Q&A. I do want to, we could talk the whole time. I've discussed this with many of you already. We could talk the whole time, and I could just answer a wide range of Q&A sessions, and that's really what I want to do. But I'm also trying to make it a decent experience for you. I try to get to everybody's questions, but I can't give really long answers unless I try to find a way to quickly, look up an article where I wrote 5 pages on it, and my best work over a week's time period. And I it's hard to just sort of give a long answer because I can only give a certain number of them. So one of the things that doesn't really work well for the live Q&A is kind of doing the live Q&A, but I'm persevering. And one of the things I'm trying to offer is kind of pick a topic and then move forward with that. But we'll see. We'll see how this all works out. One of the things I've got a few things to say, and I'll mostly do this later in the show, is talk about what my plans are to serve you. And that's the sort of thing I believe in. And if I go on a wide range of questions, we're not really getting them right now. See, this is interesting time. What's your question during a live Q&A session about slots? And we've already gotten it once, and I'm sure I'll get it like 5 or 10 more times, which is, hey, do you think when the casinos reopen, they're going to be loose or tight? And so I can answer that, and I can answer that again and again. We can talk about what people in Michigan experience, people in Washington are experiencing, people in Oklahoma, and then as more reopen in May, we'll talk more and more about that sort of thing. I think, but my business is based on this business that I have where I'm trying to help you, is based on having topics which are good for decades, up to a decade, 5 years, 10 years. Articles I wrote 3 years ago are perfectly valid right now. I mean, if casinos were open, and so that's some of the stuff that I'm covering. But I want to answer your questions. I want to have one thing I do, which is good for this week. Kind of expires in a week because we'll have another live one. Like that first day of casinos being open on Saturday last week in Oklahoma, just one casino. I'll talk about that, but I don't know that we'll discuss it again because the second weekend would be more casinos and we'd learn more. So there's topical news-related items, and for business, you don't want to do too much of that. But this is where I will be here on Saturdays talking about live Q&A. So our topic today is state-by-state slots communities on Facebook because there's so much happening. There's so much going to be happening in May as casinos reopen or not, or plans are expressed or not. But I am also going to, depending on how many questions you have, I'm also going to talk a little bit about state gaming regulations. because I have videos coming out this next week. I'm planning for Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, where Thursdays will be a series, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So first one will be on Thursday, next one a week from Thursday, the one after that a week from Thursday. So on Thursdays should be like 5-part series, that sort of thing. But I'll talk a little bit about kind of how that plan sort of had to be reworked. But as I mentioned last week, I've started many Facebook groups. I think I mostly did that in November last year. So it does take a little time for people to sort of hear about it and me to discuss it and mention it. But we're doing great. I've created 56 Facebook groups that are based on the states, territories, and the federal district. Even got a couple of people in the Northern Mariana Islands slots community on Facebook. Now, all of them are private, and Facebook constantly goes through changes, and which I worry about sometimes. But I won't tell you my worries. I recognize patterns, and there's some patterns that are I think are going to happen to Facebook. But for now, now on the reopening of casinos, I highly recommend that you join one of the Facebook groups or more, whatever is applicable. I have 56 of them, and then one for each state, territory, and federal district, and then one which is kind of national and international global slots topics, and that one's called Professor Slots Enthusiasts. To find your slots community on Facebook, visit professorslots.com/FB, as in Facebook, FB, to see the full list and then pick and choose. And I'm selective about who gets in. The selection is no teddy bears where you hold a knife to the teddy bear on your profile picture. Sorry if anybody here has that, but I try to be sensitive to community rules, and you'll have to agree to them in order to join, and then I will join you. Because there's some businesses out there that disguise themselves, and there's some very good people, or very bad people who are very good at getting in and just making a mess. And I'm trying to provide you a safe place, private community on Facebook, free, of course. Not everybody likes Facebook, but I can't help you there on your profile. But on my slots communities, my Facebook groups, private Facebook groups, I can help, and I turn people away. And if you violate the rules, is it 0 tolerance or 0.01 tolerance? It's not much tolerance for just spamming, even if it's any case. I think it's a good community. I'm doing my best to make it a safe place and share slots-related items. But a lot is happening with a few casinos reopening around the nation. And soon, a lot more will be reopening in May. So please be sure to join your state's free slots group on Facebook, where members are updating their fellow slots players with what they're learning about their local casinos. This really is the best way to stay informed. Yes, you'll likely get an email from your favorite casino on their reopening plans, or, as we discussed last week, at least a planning statement about reopening. But what if a casino opens within easy or not so easy driving distance, but you've never signed up for their players club? How will you know if they're opening or have opened? Well, that sort of information is what these slots communities have been sharing during these reopenings. Not only that, they've been actively providing casino trip reports. They've also been sharing whether slots at reopened casinos are loose or tight. During our live stream today, I'll share this information for all of us here. Some of it will be from last weekend, which makes it 7 or 8 days old. Again, join your state's private slots community on Facebook at professorslots.com/FB, and we drop that into the live stream. So you have that. I've mentioned it before, but there is the link now for everybody, and for people listening on the podcast, it will be in the description for the show, and also those of you watching this recording later, it will be in the description momentarily. It's further down in there. It's one of the things that I offer. So for now, only a few casinos have opened. But one of the things is that, I'll be talking here every Saturday while it's relevant, and it's probably going to be relevant for a year, about casinos reopening. I can tell that from the statistics on whenever I talk about it, I get a lot of traffic to views, people watching, and I think that you would be are interested in that. So I have data, and I like data. So, but if you wait for Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern time, you might not get the information that you needed, like Sunday. The previous Sunday. So I will share everything that's relevant, but maybe you need to know sooner. And Facebook groups, I've been very pleased. For now, only a few casinos have reopened, so I am able to cover their juicy details during our hour together today. As casinos continue to open, and apparently more than a few will during the month of May, it'll soon become overwhelming to fully update you weekly. And I'll certainly share my thoughts, share the highlights, but you'll likely want more information than that. It wouldn't surprise me if enough useful information will start coming in to fill an hour just talking about one state. Like I could spend this whole hour talking about Oklahoma because 2 casinos opened. Well, 2 tribes open their casinos, slightly different. So again, and finally, join your state slots community. Pick your state from the full list available at professorslots.com/FB. And once you have, let your fellow slots enthusiasts know what you've heard. Please share. Last weekend, I'm going to jump back to the chat. I see it swinging by. Let's see if I've missed anything. I suspect, without actually having looked through it just yet, that it's going to be cat names, but let's see what happens. Steve says he watched the big jackpot on Thursday and Friday, and Raja did rather well at the casinos, Deadwood, South Dakota. Right. 240 machines. Jan says she never tires of the topic of picking out the best machines. Yep. And then there's cat names. No, Chip, it is not any of those, but what great names. I'm going to have to use some of those someday. Not soon, however. Ray says, agreed, the art of picking out the potential good machine is a challenge. It is interesting when I think about the online course that I'm building. Explaining it is fun. It's kind of a hard concept for people to sort of get over because they've had, 100 years of, not that people live that long playing slots, but there's been 100 years of slot machines where it was about luck. And except for one little thing where a casino could make one machine near the bar, a winner, and then everybody would run to their slot machine and lose money. They could turn it off at will and just not, just push buttons on setting the odds on a machine for decades. And so most of the time it would seem to be just luck. But now we're seeing things where you go back to a casino. One of the things, I don't think I'm talking about this because there's so much to talk about, but one of the conversations I remember from the Oklahoma group was someone had gone into Tonkawa and talked about how they were winning a lot of jackpots. But it was strange. That was their casino, and they'd never seen so many small jackpots. Before, there would be not that many jackpots, but the amounts would be like hand base. And now what they're seeing was just really smaller amounts. And I shared what I have shared before here, and throughout my articles and wherever appropriate, that there's, the random number generator is used twice. The first time is to determine if you won. And the second time, immediately following it, when you push the button, all this is determined. The second time they run the random number generator is to, if you've won, how much you've won. So first, whether or not you win. Second, how much. And they're independently adjustable. So what I explained to this person, I'm trying to not use even first names. We'll see how well that works. From the Oklahoma slots community was, makes perfect sense. Win a lot, win often, and then win very little when you do win. Not that it was very little. She had it wasn't a hand pay. It was $1,000, $1,021 was the picture she put up. So not a hand pay, but still decent amount. And so, I've got to figure out a nice, concise way to sort of get people to think this way. And it's hard when every casino is like, well, you weren't lucky. Maybe next time you'll be lucky. Keep playing. And it's just like, what, you're putting this on me? You're not doing it to me? And I have to explain that, how statistics work. So, let's see. Scott says, good conversations between everybody. See, community. It's awesome. And Joe says, this just in, Pechanga Casino in Temecula. Worked hard on knowing how to pronounce that. Had to talk to a local. Temecula, California, targets June 1st as opening date. Oh, that might not be the first opening I've heard about. California slots community, I think they mentioned another one, but it's San Manuel. I don't remember the date. I had to look it up in the group. But now they say Pechanga on June 1st. Okay. Okay. Looks like we're caught up on some of the side conversations. So last weekend, going back to the state-by-state communities and some of the things that they've been sharing, last weekend, we met at our last live stream was, again, 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday. But Saturday night, Sunday, was very active on the Oklahoma slots community. And this is the sort of activity I'm expecting on when casinos open in all the other states as well. Just busy, busy, busy. So you may remember that I congratulated the Oklahoma community on reaching 200 members last weekend on our last live stream. Well, they jumped by 20%, nearly 20%. They're already up to 237 members. So that kind of activity draws people in. And it's great to see that. Communities are great, free, private, communities where work hard to make you safe. And it's great to see that kind of growth. We are almost to 200 on Professor Slots Enthusiasts, and I expect that sort of, cross a threshold. Recently got another person like me from the casino recreational podcast community. He joined, and that's another 2 to 3 years, and I'll be an overnight success, is what I tell people. And to be of service is what I consider to be successful. And so let me go over some of the things that the Oklahoma slots community has discussed in the last week, so you get an idea of if what your state will do with some casinos lose tight, that sort of thing. Michigan, I think it applies to. I'll talk about this in a minute. I think this applies well to Michigan because they also have tribal casinos. They also have 4 non-tribal casinos, but they've got 28, 29, 30 tribal casinos, and a lot of similar things can be done as with Oklahoma. So it's sort of interesting for some states to watch other states and see how it went. And we'll So let me get into that. Again, not trying to use first names, but someone reported that Takawa, I'm spelling that wrong. Let's see, that was actually, I want to give you a website. I think I have that here. Takawa, yes. I will put in their website so you have it into the live chat, so you don't have to Google it. They have a casino, but they also have a resort, and that's the link that I'm sharing. And so someone reported that Takawa, which is 100 miles north of Oklahoma City, she said, quote, won this, and she showed a picture of a $1,021, not a hand pay, jackpot that she'd won, and she says, plus more today. That would have been Saturday or Sunday last weekend at Takawa. And they said she says it's now opened every day with limited hours. The machines are definitely hitting, she says, if you have a chance to go. Then I asked her, because we talked about this before these other comments that we talked a week ago about, well, are they loose or are they tight? And she just talked about the jackpot. So I followed up with her after our last live show and asked her. And she said most of them seemed loose, at least the ones I played. Someone else replied, loose on low to mid-range bets. Max bets were very tight. Another person said, I visited today, and from my perspective, the slots were very loose. I ranged in bets from $1 to $25, and the payback percentage was very high for me, at least. A third member, it's just real group conversation here, a third member then said, how late will Takawa be open tonight? They live in Wichita, so it's a bit of a drive. Other than Takawa, I saw First Council was open by invite only for the time being. Is that correct? To which, yep, other replies were open to 2 a.m. tonight and not invite only, just non-advertised soft opening. And that was last weekend. So that's just a comment with a bunch of replies to give you an excellent idea of the kind of help and sharing that's going on between members of these slots communities. From last Sunday, from the Oklahoma group, there's more casino reopening information and another example of slots enthusiasts connecting to one another. Someone asked, any of the little hole-in-the-wall casinos open close to the Kansas border? Someone else replied, no, they aren't open yet. Only 7 clans and Takawa are the closest to the Kansas border. Now, please remember, this was Sunday, 6 days ago, so everything's happening quickly, and if you want the updated information, maybe check in with these casinos, because we have specific names for them, or join the group of Kansas group or Oklahoma group and share what you know and look for what other people are saying. So, they said they appreciated the reply, and that someone else had gone to the website and says that they plan on reopening May 15th, which is the date a lot of Oklahoma casinos are opening. And let's take a look. That is going to be, 6 days? So before we meet again, Friday, a lot of Oklahoma casinos are going to be opening, and I won't be able to share everything on that Saturday because it'd just be too much. Otherwise, over the last week, someone else shared some photos of wins and stated that they thought Takawa was very loose. Someone else reported how long, and I thought this was interesting. I got involved in all these, but I'm not putting in my own replies, but one here was interesting. Someone else reported that there were that the lines were long for a little while at when Takawa reopened, and so they were waiting. And it's interesting how you have to wait. You have to wait in your car. You can't go to a nearby restaurant. A few people were apparently hanging outside of the casino door and chatting, but they said that they were waiting, and someone else said, well, why are you waiting? There's another casino 40 minutes away. I think it was 7 clans, and there was no wait. So this first person went to the second to the casino 40 minutes away, and 4 hours later, they came back about, yeah, we're having a good time, but Tonkawa never did call me. Apparently, they call you when it's your turn. They never did, hear back. Maybe they meant a message, but never did hear back when they were up to come in. So that was 4 hours later. When and I jumped in when they said that they were waiting in their cars in the parking lot at the casino because they, to get in, and they were just sitting there. And I suggested they listen to one of my podcast episodes, to get in the mood, etc. While Oklahoma has been the most active, and I've barely covered some of the interesting back and forth conversations, in the last week, other comments have been coming in from other slots communities. Before I get to that, I'm going to jump back and see if there's questions that need answering on the live chat. Scott agrees that the Oklahoma group is doing great about sharing information. Oklahoma, has always been great about sharing information. A lot of the communities, and not just Puerto Rico, but a lot of the communities, there's a lot of listeners. And I get a lot of listeners like the New York slots community. They're waiting for somebody to share something and use it, but they're not quite so willing to share themselves. It's just interesting. I've lived in some of these states, and it's interesting to see the character of the state sort of shine through on the community. So Chip says, John, have you touched on taking notes when you have won on a slot or keeping a log of how much you are betting for tax purposes? But do casinos object to taking notes? The objection that casinos have, that's several things going on with that question. The objections that casinos will have, and they're serious objections that you need to take seriously, is no electronic devices. All right, I know we have phones on us, but if you're typing into your phone, that's more illegal than writing it down on a notepad. When you have a notepad, they may say, no, you can't do that. But we've had notepads for hundreds of years, or at least 100 years, and notepads are allowed. They may not like it, and they may say that's not allowed, but it's not illegal. Electronic device is, and I'm thinking that nobody really carries notepads anymore. I've got some books, some little notebooks that I take with me when I need to. But when I was standing up and walking around and looking at a slot machine, not playing it, moving to the next one, doing the same thing, moving to the next one, doing the same thing, making a couple of notes. It wasn't 2 minutes before a gentleman in a suit was standing next to me saying, "What are you doing?" And I was capturing the goodness ratios because I wanted to try to give you guys good data about, what's a high number, what's a low number, what's a good range, and I just can't remember 100 numbers and then write them down later. I take notes, and they objected to that. So I didn't try to violate that. I just understood that if you're going to walk through a casino and capture the goodness ratio, this is all under choosing slot machines on my main page at professorslots.com, talks about this concept where you're trying to avoid the bad machines. That's primarily what it's there for, which, if you're winning enough and you lose less, then you're making a profit. Again, here's my short sentences that I use to describe a 5-page article. So one of the things the other thing that's really complicated, that's really a can of worms, Chip, that you covered is taxes. Okay. What I do is I don't use an ATM machine. So no withdrawals, no deposits while I'm at the casino. Just a habit. It kind of makes this a little bit clearer. And I record how much I walk in with, and I record how much I walk out with. What I don't record is bankroll cycling. And, if you get draconian on taxes, you might get this interpretation of you take $20 in, you win $200, you spend the $200, you win the $200, you spend the $200, you win the $200, and you spend the $200, and you got $20 left, and you leave the casino. And did I say that 5 times? I think I said that 5 times. I hope I said that 5 times. Because I would write down, I took in my stake of $20, and I left with my take-home cash of $20. So I technically didn't lose anything, and technically didn't win anything according to tax purposes. But nobody can keep track. The casino doesn't even allow you to keep track. It's not accurate. By going by rewards points, but you can't keep track that you spent $1,000. You brought in $20 and you spent $200 5 times. Do you pay taxes on the $200 5 times? Well, where's your records? The casino doesn't provide them. You can't capture them unless you... So anyway, it's a can of worms. Typically what is done is how much you took in, how much you left. And that's what you write down. Okay, Scott. And if you have any problems with that, I'm not a tax professional. I'm not an income tax professional. I paid a lot of taxes, but I'm not an income tax professional. And so you should check with them and follow their advice. I'm just pointing out some of the practical difficulties of doing it 100%. Anyway, see my other articles on these sorts of things. It's a little messy, but I'm okay with that. Life's a messy. I'm a physicist. It's crazy out there. And as far as the science world, honestly, you got to have a little flexibility. Scott, John, what you said about downstream removing the slots, like the video showed, they lease the machines. There are some riverboat casinos that I've been to that obviously own the machines. They're faded, because they're under neon lights, and it's been so long that the ink's faded. They own those. But if you're in any of these other casinos, I doubt any of them are owned. Any sort of modern casino, because that's not the arrangements people have made in the last 10, 15 years with the slot manufacturers. The slot manufacturers want to cut. And so they've switched all the contracts. But there are casinos out there with old slot machines that used to run coins, but they got a new piece inserted with a ticket in, ticket out, and voucher in, voucher out connection. But other than a few changes in its guts, they own those. But that's getting to be rarer and rarer. A lot of these casinos have switched over since 2012, when it just started coming out, have switched over to central control, and that's that's the whole internals of it. So they rent those, and now we have casinos that one thing they could do is turn off every other slot machine, right, to maintain social distancing. The partitions between each of them would let them. I'm not seeing that working out very practically. How do you even get in when the chair's nailed to the floor? Not that all of them are, but half casinos I've been to, the chair was immovable. But every casino could turn off every other slot machine. But if they're renting it and they're not using it, why not return it to the slot manufacturer for the next year? Right? I think you saw the article where someone asked the question, and I was in one of the slots communities, and I was like, well, yeah, why would they have something that they're renting and when they're not using it? Return it, right? And that means the next time we see a annual financial report, maybe some of the quarterly reports will say this, they have to fess up to that. In these clear documents given to the SEC, they have to share how the business is going in a clear manner. And if they said, a lot of people have returned the rented slot machines under fine print in the contract, which says they need, allows them to under emergency crisis management, that's standard Not that I've seen these contracts, but no lawyer is going to miss that. What if your casino burns down? It's under that section of the contract. The slot manufacturers want to be protected, and it's good for everybody that way. And so I think that send them home. Of course, a casino has a problem of it's a big gaping hole, and there's cables on the floor, and they might have to do some renovating. So it's all sort of like I'm waiting for reports from somebody to go to a casino where every other slot machine has been removed and get an idea of how many casinos are going to do that, because it's a great idea financially, but in a practical sense, is it possible? And I'm very interested in seeing what that looks like. So what does that do to the bottom line, removing, say, 30% of the machines? It's an easy estimate is just say 30% of your revenue on slots. Yep, you need to return statistics for a state that has, separates out table game income and slots income, and then you say 30%. Now, the thing is, do they also get rid of every other slot machine in the high limit room? Because you can make a lot of money from the high limit room if it's an active high limit room at the casino, and that might be, I'm just guessing, worth about a quarter of the casino. And if they didn't remove every other one of those at the high limit room, then it's not exactly 30%. But it's one of the easier calculations to make. Every other slot machine is gone, 50% reduction in gaming revenue from slot machines. Boom. Wait a little bit to, depending partly how big the high limit room is. Looks like we're doing Q&As here. Enjoy your trip, Paula. She's going to Missouri. Denise says only hand payouts were from high dollar bets on Oklahoma casinos. Did see some pics of wins, but only high limit bets, one hand pays, such as $6, $880, and $10. There's the information on, if you look carefully, as we were discussing, and certainly has been discussed in today's live chat. A lot of people are looking carefully at these photos being uploaded to maybe identify, they haven't said, but maybe identify which slot machine is that, and I'm going to go play that one. Also looking at it, is it a $10 machine? Is it a penny machine? Is it, over hand pay amount or under hand pay amount? And you can start putting patterns together. And if you look at every photo, like for instance, that comes out of the Oklahoma slots community 4 hours after opening of Tonkawa, that's getting to be very specific information. It gives you a clue what might be your best approach as far as choosing slot machines and denomination of slot machines. And, do you wait? Several times people said, yeah, it was great for the first 4 hours, and after that it just took a nosedive. Opened at 4 p.m. and by it was great, and then 8 p.m. happened. People showed up, a lot more people showed up, and boom, suddenly you couldn't win anything. And that's the sort of, if you're interested in that kind of information, I hope you would. That's basically my audience. People who think about slot machine gambling, want to do better one way or another. And there's so many different ways: money management, following the patterns, and all the different ways that you can. If you think about slots, then or you can just spend money and wonder why things happen later. But if you think about it, there's good information in the Oklahoma places. More than community, it's winning strategies. So Denise says, for tax purposes, Oklahoma gives you a record of what you spent from your player's card for tax purposes. Are most states like that? I think what you're talking about is the win-loss statement. Win-loss statement is not enough to do income taxes. It falls short of the data that is necessary, certainly on all the ones that I've seen. And the casinos don't want to provide that tax liability in case some players don't use it. So it's to their interest to not provide everything that they've collected as far as data for income taxes. Again, IRS does not require that casinos do that, and so the casinos avoid that. So I question whether or not that's sufficient. Now, if you go back to one of the earlier live streams, it would have been November, December, and it should stay in the title. This one would be about income tax records. I went over the IRS statements. I went to showed you the IRS statements, the regulations, the gambling purposes section, and they said a record that you keep with the facility, the casino, the date, and the amount spent. There's a short list of like 4 things they want you to keep. And if you want to support that statement with the win-loss statement, that's great. It's just backup material, but it's insufficient. You need to write down more than you'd find on those. Now, maybe some casino will actually come out with everything that the IRS requests, the United States Internal Revenue Service requests for U.S. citizens, U.S. residents paying taxes. But I can't see why they would. If it was a law, federal law, every casino would have to, and they're not. So casinos, in danger, I'm using the word in danger, casinos endangering financially on your income taxes, putting their players in, getting them in trouble, potentially. Just bad business practice. So I question whether that's just a win-loss statement, which is used up to a certain amount. Chip says, Denise was told by my accountant that IRS does not accept. Yeah. It's right there on the IRS. So Chip talked to his accountant. Yep. So I have... I think I covered that pretty well previously in a prior one. By the way, I again sort of talked about this. This has been meant to be newsworthy stuff. Typically, I have tried to put in, solid information good for a decade. That's almost everything I want to do. The only time I'm not doing that is, talking about last weekend in Oklahoma, reopening of casinos. The live Q&A is a live Q&A. And people are concerned about today and this week. And so it's, news. And, but mostly my stuff is long-term, and everything else will be, basically. So Steve says, I thought some casinos downloaded new slots themes on the same machines. Yes. Machines are still rented. It's just that the game theme can change, but that's only if the buttons are the same. They do, they have a standard console, a standard configuration, in which case, any slot machine can change it. But there's a certain amount of players' appeal to having to figure out the new buttons. Even if it's just 60 bets or lightning round or some sort of display that's under the panel but not the buttons that sort of shoots around. The whole console is an LED display. This whole thing can be pretty innovative, and there's player appeal. But yeah, a lot of casino machines, when they're video, you change the game theme. Sometimes when it's just reels, you can change them as well. Pop out the pay table and put the new pay table in. That's quite possible. But that's older style, and to keep up with the player appeal outside of like riverboat casinos and places that can't afford to do so. Some have made the choice to buy a slot machine, but it's rare. Come and go. Yeah. Just walk into a casino and walk around to the dark corners. See if some things look dusty. See if it has kind of like a bin at the bottom where the coins came out, and realize they've had that one for 16 years minimum, right? You didn't have coins anymore 16 years ago. Maybe it was more. So that's how you can tell. No other reason, no good business reason to own them. Okay, let's see. Jan asks, when do you anticipate your online course will be ready? My understanding is that it'll take me a year. I'm just getting started on it. I had some work that was in queue. One of the things I wanted to mention in the last few minutes here was, I guess we didn't really get to gaming regulations too much, but one of the things was I have been busy working in the background. This last week I was on vacation for a family reason. My daughter got married on Wednesday. Small ceremony at the courthouse, nobody there. I think somebody drove maybe. It's all been kind of like an online experience. And outside of that, I did take this week off mostly for that. But the rest of the time I just tried to work on, the description I give is I'm working, my business is on a step, on a stairway. It's a giant's stairway. And I got everything on one step of the giant's stairway. And I'll take a week off of vacation and I'll move everything up to the next step. And I did this last week. So it's a big staircase, lots of steps, and every once in a while I will move everything up to being slightly better. Perhaps you have noticed the live Q&A sessions are doing remarkably better. The first few was definitely working on getting the technical requirements worked out. Today, I did not post concurrently on Facebook because I'm not able to watch too many screens, and people commenting there were not getting a response until after it was all over. And I only did that because I needed to have a recording for this for the podcast. So these are all technical difficulties, or rather technical things to make it a little smoother for me to get everything out that needs to be put out. But this last week was a lot of that. And all you see is a certain amount of smoothness and a certain amount of things kind of run faster. And I'm able to be more efficient and get more things done. And that's what I've been working on. I finished the audiobook. And I don't really want to talk about it because it's not an appropriate thing to do yet. My part is done. There might be a tweak. We'll see. I submitted it. And because everybody's self-isolating and self-quarantining, everybody is making an audio version of their book. So they're backed up. Where you send these things, it's backed up. And I will hear within the next month whether it's accepted. If they want me to make one small change somewhere, some small change that would take me 5 minutes, I will then submit it, and it would be ready in a month. So in 1 to 2 months, it will be available, and I will let you know how and where to go. Now, the way audiobooks works, I cannot set the price. The price is set in ranges depending on length of the book. And my book is a few seconds short of 8 hours. And it is Learning to Win over there. You can buy the ebook and the softcover on Amazon, and I will tell you when it's available. There's no way to pre-order or nothing like that. Everything has to get approved that first time. I will let you know here first or second or maybe third after I tell family when that is going to be available. Thank you, Jan, for the congratulations. But that had to get out of the way, and there's nothing really, it's like selling the book. Once it's ready and out there, then I move on to the next thing. So now I move on to the next thing. I also bought this excellent book, which is just for you entrepreneurs out there. This one, Book Yourself Solid, and it finally explains all the little bits and pieces I've been putting together about how to run a business. So a lot to be done, and I'm very much looking forward to it, excited about it, and that's kind of it. We're coming up on our time. Thank you for the questions. Always love answering your questions. You guys take care, stay safe. Crazy week out there. Remember to join the slots communities to keep up with what's going on in your state. Happy early May. I'll see you in a week. You guys take care. Have fun, be safe, Make good choices.